Hey there, YouTube friends. I am Bandit, and thank you so much for being here today. I do appreciate it. And welcome to Planet Zoo! I know I'm a little late to the party. Kind of a little late to the party. I mean, I know I've already had a Planet Zoo video. Bro Coaster Season Zoo is on the channel. We dropped that a couple days ago, Mike and I. But since the game came out, after that first day, I've been trying to work on my own solo project. It's been hard. It's been really tough. It's been surprisingly difficult. So, if you're new to my channel, you're just checking me out. Hi. I like to build super realistic, lower key kind of builds. I try to base everything I do on realism. And go with that extra mile. If you're unfamiliar with me, check out Season Zoo. You'll see a little bit about what I'm about, but check out some of the Planet Coaster content I've done so you can get an idea of my style. And because that style that I do for Planet Coaster is definitely carrying over here to Planet Zoo, and I'm so very, very excited to be playing this game today. So, our solo project, my solo project, is going to be called Emerald Gardens. And you might have noticed that the sign doesn't say Emerald Gardens currently. It's because we redo it. Part of the reason this video is so late is I've had to restart my idea 3 or 4 different times. I have had such a hard time getting into a flow. I thought it would be much, much easier to play. I thought it'd be a lot easier to build right out of the gate, having 3 years under my belt of Planet Coaster. It's not. It's amazing. It's the same building system, kind of, but different pieces. That's the biggest thing, is figuring out what pieces we have and what we can use for what, and how we can manipulate pieces to do things in new and unique ways. That's been the struggle, as well as finding an aesthetic that I liked. I'm really good at the kind of rustic, generic style. That's what I'm really good at, especially in like Planet Coaster. And so I don't want to lean too heavily on that, and I do kind of here for these ticket buildings. But it gave me an idea as I started to build and plop some trees down. I was like, what about Pacific Northwest? I let the game start to rain, and it looks so nice in the rain. I said, ooh, let's do a Pacific Northwest zoo, a zoo that is set there. So what I did then is started looking at the zoo in Seattle and the zoo in Portland specifically for ideas. And found a lot of interesting things. And in fact, our entrance, not this building, but the actual entrance gate, is going to be modeled after the zoo in Portland. I really liked it. The Seattle Zoo, on the other hand, has a super modern, it looks like it's straight out of the game, actually. It looks like it's straight out of Planet Zoo. A super modern entrance, which we don't really do. But the layout of the zoo that we're going to be doing is actually modeled after my home zoo, the Houston Zoo. It's going to have a main parking area with a lake and this entrance and exit area. If you watched my Planet Zoo beta series, which if you didn't, you should go check that out as well, because you can also see what I did for the 2 weeks we had the beta. But anyway, we're going to have the layout of the entrance modeled after the Houston Zoo, but obviously this is not the architecture at all of the Houston Zoo. So trying to be inspired without directly ripping off, that's the struggle for me. I'm really good when I have a reference image. The problem is I can make a reference image. Sometimes I have a hard time being inspired by a reference image and making it my own. So these ticket booths are actually inspired by the gift shop in the Portland Zoo. Kind of took some of the ideas, the logs and all that stuff, and put that into our ticket building. So made 2 there on an angle so that it looked gave it a little more visual interest. One of the things some people I notice people talk about struggling with is how to keep their things from looking boxy. Lots of angles, lots of heights variation, and sometimes just taking an entire building, copying it and putting it on an angle like that, like I did, and then all of a sudden it looks a lot more visually interesting. So here we go. We are basically going to rip off the entrance to the Portland Zoo. I loved I guess is it cantilevered? I don't know. The big poles in the back. with cables connecting to keep that roof up. I really loved the way it looked. Tried to take extra careful attention to detail to make sure it looked like this was all supported properly, and with the different iron beams and stuff. Stumbled upon these, kind of forgot these were in the game. Part of this, the reason it took so long to get an episode out is menu navigation. Everything is just, it's hard. I think if it were a completely different designed game, like it wasn't basically a reskin of Planet Coaster, it would have been easier to get accustomed, because I kept looking for things in places where I assumed they would be and they weren't there. Or I kept looking for specific pieces assuming they'd be there and they weren't there. But now that I've gotten into this groove, I am having such a fun time. I cannot wait to actually get animals. The dang game has been out for almost a week now, and I have yet to plop an animal. Well, that's not true. Off camera, I plopped an aardvark just to make sure my spawn points were working. So that is one thing I'm really glad that Planet Zoo has done. They've given us spawn points that we can put wherever we want. So I have promptly deleted the ones at the edge of the map, and we're gonna hide some in the entrance area here. We might make a bathroom structure somewhere or something, and stick a spawn point in there. So that's where our guests will come from. It'll help so that they actually come and visit the zoo, because one of the things is if your stuff is too far away, they won't walk all the way to get to see your zoo. So that's something that I'm excited they have. I was a little flustered, especially the first couple days with the significant lack of recolorable items. It's really, really kind of a bummer, and I know they've mentioned why they have it that way. Artist integrity of textures and all that stuff, which I understand. I just don't agree with. I don't think so. I would much rather have recolorable pieces with slightly less texture fidelity, I suppose. It's the creative in me. I want to have as much flexibility as I can, and only having a few recolorable pieces is really a bummer. But I'm sure if you're watching me, you've been watching a lot of Planet Zoo, so you've probably heard a bunch of people talk about the same thing, so I don't want to dwell too much on that. One of the things I liked about this entrance was that they just had ZOO, they had big zoo suspended from the roof, and I thought that was a really neat way to do it, rather than tacking it on top of the roof, sticking the name of the zoo under the roof here, under the overhang. I thought that was a nice little thing to do. I think made it a little more unique and a little more interesting. So what we are going to do, this is a lengthy first episode, because I've been working on this for almost a week. What we're going to do is I wanted to get you in real time so you could see what this looks like slowed down, so you can actually see it in real time, because there's some cool little details that I'd really like to show off for you. Another issue, as you can see here, that I have with Planet Zoo currently is the inability to recolor multiple objects. Like, you should be able to highlight every one of those letters and recolor them all at once, rather than having to individually recolor them. It's a total pain. So I'm hoping that's something that they will patch into the game. We've already had one patch to fix some crashes. I do get this weird bug where every time I load the game after not playing for a little while, the game hangs on me at the loading screen, and then I have to go in and restart. It's really weird. Force quit and restart. And I've had that just about every time I start. So what we're doing here, I want to mention, that gray art piece that I strung along top, that's supposed to be where you would put the roll-up fence at the end of the day to make sure people don't come into the zoo when it's closed. That big gray rectangle there would be where you would house the gate. So what we're doing here is we're going to move a peep there, and we're going to make some little stands, some ticket scanners. I kind of just did this off the top of my head from all my visits to the Houston Zoo. Like, there's a little kiosk where the guy stands and scans your ticket. Like, we're members, so they scan my membership card, and then behind them there's like some cupboards where they keep maps and stuff. So that's kind of what I did here, and put some fencing around to kind of make it a little more official, because it's such a big open area. Wanted to make it a little more organized, I guess would be the word. So really happy with how these turned out, and I'll show them to you in better detail in the slope down, in the real time. In the real time. So once I got this going, it was really hard for me to figure out where to go next. I knew I wanted another structure, but I didn't want to stick with this cliched, mountainy, Paul Bunyan-y Pacific Northwest. So I did a random Google search, just Pacific Northwest architecture, and I was just floored by what came up. So many really cool modern structures that still use that idea of a lot of wood and a lot of natural finishing. That's in a lot of the architecture, but in a really modern way. And they lended themselves very, very well to the sets we have here in Planet Zoo. So you can see here, we're going to get started. This little trick here, that path is a gravel path, and we're using it as gravel, not as a path. Trick I saw Mike do actually on one of his Planet Botanic videos, which if you haven't checked out that series, you absolutely need to. If one thing Planet Zoo has absolutely nailed is the foliage, and one thing Mike is great at is foliage. So if that's your jam, you should definitely check out Planet Botanic on Mike's channel. So I'll link his channel in the description below, maybe if I remember. But here we are working on this structure. This is another direct inspiration from a picture I found. It is the Washington State Fruit and Produce headquarters or something like that. And it's this really modern, just long building with these awesome timber, with these, they're almost like buttresses. They're really cool. I really enjoy it. And what I did to get those thicker beams there is there's these really nice natural wood beams, and I just nested like 4 of them together to get a big, thick beam like that. And I thought that did a nice job to kind of get closer to the reference. One of the issues is the lack of, we only have 1 height or 2 height or 4 height sloped roofs, and I needed about a half height slope, which we don't have. I could have done custom roofs, but I really want to avoid that as much as possible. It's a strain on pieces, it's a strain on time, and if I can get close enough without having to do custom roofs, I will. There will be times where it will be unavoidable. And I'll probably do it more in like a bro coaster, because this series, I just want to have fun. But putting this together was up until a couple days ago was anything but fun. But maybe I'll stay away from some of the more tedious things and try and get into building. I think now that I've gotten kind of into it a bit, I think it's going to be a bit easier to get into this and to get cooking. And especially once we start putting animals in, I think it's going to come together much quicker than this first episode did. So you also notice there's big jumps here, like ta-da, the building's done. I ended up I wasn't sure what to do, so whenever I'm really flustered and I know it wouldn't make good time lapse, I cut it off. I stop recording, and then usually I forget to turn it back on. So there are going to be lots of times in this series where there'll be big gaps in my time-lapse, but I know a lot of you enjoy time-lapse way more than I do, so I will keep it in there for you guys. You can expect a chunk of time-lapse at the beginning of every video, and then a real-time portion at the end of every video, because there will be things that aren't covered in the time-lapse more often than not that we're going to want to look at in the real-time portion. But here you can see that building is a lot further along here. And because it's got a glass front, there is no way to avoid making a custom interior, so we will do that in another episode. I cleaned it all up for this episode so that it's just an empty interior. It's going to be a gift shop. Decided to kind of do some decoration, but then I decided to put some foliage in and ended up blocking this little painting here, these little statues, so I ended up moving them later on. And I kind of dig this planter here, the little gaps there. I like that. In the reference image, there is nothing, and it's just gravel and then grass. There's no planting at all. There's just some rocks. It looked a little too stark for a zoo for me, so I went ahead and added some shrubs, added some of those hedges, and added some birch. One thing I noticed from looking around the zoos in the Pacific Northwest, especially the Portland Zoo, tons of birch trees. It looked like birch trees, at least with the white bark. I was really surprised. In addition to obviously all the pine trees, all the coniferous trees, there were quite a lot of birch. And man, we have an aspen tree in the game, and it's fantastic, but it's so yellow. It's in its fall foliage, which is cool. I just wish they also gave us the green version too, because that would have been so perfect. It's such a tall, narrow tree. It would have been absolutely perfect for this project, but alas, what are you gonna do? So, and here we are, kind of where we started with the time lapse, back at this fence here. And I'm kind of upset because they have this piece in the game and I didn't realize it till after I had already made it custom. So the last thing we're working on here are turnstiles, and these are actually on the workshop. We're gonna make some one-way security turnstiles for our exit area, and I think and I think they turned out really, really well. I was really pleased. I don't have all of their building, I don't think, in the time lapse. In fact, we're just about to end the time lapse here. So with that, I think we'll go look at these in the real-time portion. So stay right there, and I'll see you on the other side of this cut. So here we are in the real-time portion. It's a sunny day. And I wanted to show you around so you could see what's going on. Hopefully this looks familiar. This is pretty much the angle from the thumbnail of the video. So just so you know you're going to a zoo, I guess. We're going to take a quick look behind us. Oh, it's so unfinished. Look at all those sad staff members, because I have no entrance, I have no staff, I have nothing yet. And so they're all just standing around looking all bummed. But I do have this giant body of water that we will need to do some work on to make it look prettier. But we have ourselves a nice little fountain there. But then, clearly, here's where I've been working. And I wanted to make sure I could really nail the vibe, the vibe of the, well, Pacific Northwest. And lots of pines, you'll see, lots of overgrowth as well. I'm going to put lots of ferns, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, let's take a stroll. Let's walk up the steps and go check out the ticket building. So I'm going to zoom back a little bit so you can see a little bit more. So I love these natural planters here. I think these turned out really, really well. Like I said, lots of birch, lots of lots of leaves in amongst the pines. But I think it gives that vibe without being obtrusively overgrown. Here, it's kind of gotten away from them a little bit, but that's okay because this actually blocks the exit path, and I kind of wanted that sight line to be disrupted a bit. So anyway, if we were to be coming to the zoo here, this is gonna be the parking lot. If we were gonna come to the zoo, we have our options here. That's our exit. We can either go left, and that's where the tickets are. But if we've already got our tickets or members, we can come around to the right here. And so we don't have to deal with any of that over there. And we just come this way. And then if we're members, we follow the paw prints. And I put these on. I think I saw Beyond Drew do this. I saw some other people do this. But you can, the little paw prints lead to the members only entrance. And that's where I go in. When I go to a zoo, that's where I head. So, apologies if you hear that banging. Someone is building something in the garage, and I don't think the door is shut. So apologies for that, but here you go. Here's a better look at our entrance area here. And you can see the kind of dichotomy between this classic rustic style, but then this much more modern entrance. And I kind of dig that. And then you're going to see the interior, the next building, is much closer to the entrance gate than the ticket booth. So maybe in the lore, that they redid the entrance gate and the gift shop, but they didn't really do the ticket building. Maybe they didn't have the funds for it or something. So here's a look at those ticket areas here, and once we get some power to the area, those will light up. That'll be pretty cool. Imagine it's like a barcode scanner. That's kind of what I'm going for here. Cubbies, fencing. One of the things that's kind of a pain in the butt, shouldn't have used these fences. You have to put each one of those round posts at the end of the fence. That was kind of a pain. And here's that lattice fence that I did custom that I didn't have to. Oops. Got the ivy growing on it because this is a pretty wet climate, so moss and ivy are going to grow, I'm assuming, pretty easily. And we enter, and there's nothing. Eventually there'll be stuff here, but the rest of the build is behind us, or is over on the side here. So here's a better look at that building that we were working on, that modern structure. So you can see now, I made some adjustments for it to work in this setting, but I love it. I think it looks really nice. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. And then on the inside, if we take a look, we got some floating pillars. I'll have to fix that. On the inside here, you can see that we have an interior, real basic. I don't know why that's yellow. That I didn't pick yellow. It's white. It should be white. I guess it's because we're inside. But a real simple interior here that we can make look like a store. We'll probably cover that up with something so we don't see the gravel there. But I'm probably going to have to make some custom shelves with some custom stuff. And so we'll put that in there probably in the next episode. For doors, you can see here I've got some extra. I got to add some rigging in for sliding doors. I assume these doors would slide open and close because it's too close. The beams are too close. You can't open them. So I think that's how that would work. So Again, real happy with how this turned out. I like the fact that there's no real barrier here. There's nothing stopping people from going on the gravel. Technically, people in-game will walk on the gravel, but we'll just pretend that they can't. So as you're coming this way, got that little exit sign there so that you're clear that the exit is this way. So this big building here, I'm assuming, is like offices and stuff. Zoo, business, admin, and all that kind of stuff. So probably if you wanted season passes, you would I guess go to the ticket booths, but wherever I had room, I threw rocks in because I really wanted to feel like we had that rustic, like over here. I like the way the rocks are poking out here. I want to do that wherever I can. So also, I've got some bamboo here. I just threw it in, but I like the leafiness. I guess stupid to say the leafiness, but there's some really big bushy looking trees, but this bamboo is so kind of scrawny and leafy that I think it'll really work well. And bamboo, as far as I know, can pretty much grow anywhere. So hopefully we can go ahead and use that. And then here's the turnstiles that I was working on. I think they turned out really, really well. I'm really pleased with how they work. And they look like they function. They are on the workshop. You can download them for your zoo if you want. There will be a link in the description. Excuse me. So let's exit the zoo. And I did this, the see you soon sign, to block the view of this administration building, as well as make sure nobody can get into the zoo from over here because it was quite open. So I like the way it's all turning out. I was a little unsure about this big flat building, but most of it's hidden by this anyway. And one of the bummers is you can't sync thing. There's no in Planet Coaster, there was like 1 or 2 little pixels in between the path and the ground texture. That doesn't exist in Planet Zoo, so I have to make it look like they're just patching all the cracks in the path with asphalt. They're just doing little patch jobs here and there, but I think it actually makes it look a little more realistic. So it's a happy little accident, you know. So, but man, check out the lighting engine and just the trees. It's such a beautiful game. They've really outdone themselves with the lighting engine. The weather effects are stellar. You'll see some rain in the cinematics. So, yeah, I'm super duper excited. I've got lots of great plans for this zoo. We're gonna have lots of cool exhibits. I want gorillas. I want lots of things. I definitely want gorillas. I definitely want elephants. And I have no idea what else. All kinds of good stuff. And I want it to look realistic, but I want it to look modern. I want to have mixed species exhibits. I want this to look nice. I want this to feel like a destination zoo. A zoo that's been around for a while, but has its act together and is on the cutting edge of what's best for animal welfare. So hopefully we could get that done in this series. And yeah, so that's all I've really got for you guys in this first episode. I hope you've enjoyed, and if you have, hit the like button. And if you're new and you're just finding me now for Planet Zoo, please subscribe so you don't miss any Planet Zoo or any other simulation games that end up on the channel. So with that being said, have a great day, great night, great whatever. I'll see all of you real soon. Take care, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
This